I'm so glad you joined me today for the ultimate guide to grad school in Europe. A lot of students are interested in this topic because they did a semester abroad or have had some sort of international experience. It's really hard to not want more and more experiences after you've had a taste abroad. Other people are interested because they haven't had the chance yet to travel and want to have that experience before they settle down into a job and family. Taking a year to backpack sounds great, but it isn't realistic for most people I know. Most people I talk to want to get a master's degree to improve their career prospects. They may not be fulfilled by what they found this far and want more options, but as I'm sure you know, tuition in the US is out of control. These are just a few examples of the types of students who are going to grad school in Europe. Of course, there are a ton of other situations that might apply to you, from returning to school later in life, to wanting to start a life abroad, to students who benefit from the GI Bill. Really, if you value international experiences and you're seeking affordable graduate school options, then you're in the right place today. Today we're going to talk about how much money you can save by going to grad school in Europe. We'll talk about educational quality, how these options impact employability, and some of the incredible international experiences you can have by studying in Europe. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Jenn Viemont. I'm the founder of Beyond the States. I spent most of my life in Chicago, but now I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina with my husband Tom and our daughter Ellie. My son Sam recently graduated from high school and he is going to Leiden University in the Netherlands. I started Beyond the States due to these two guys right here after learning about the English-taught bachelor's degree programs in Europe. I really didn't even know this was an option before that point. I knew about study abroad, but I didn't know you could get your full degree taught in English. I spent several weekends sitting out on my back porch with my computer, researching and finding out how incredible these options are. Though I was excited by all I was learning, it was really stressful since there are so many differences between the US and European higher education, and then there was the added challenge of figuring out the differences between the systems of the different countries. There was not one single source of information, and many of the portals were little more than paid advertisement sites with a lot of incorrect information to sift through. Though I still had a ton of questions, I realized I wanted to learn more for my own family's sake, but I also knew there were other families and students who would want to know more about this as well. In order to start Beyond the States, I spent a year researching, visiting schools in Europe, talking to administrators and students so that I can provide objective, first-hand information about this. This is something I continue to do so that I can provide the information I wanted when I was looking into these options, and also because I love travel. Further, I don't partner with schools so that I can be completely honest about what I learn, even when it's not complimentary. So that was back in 2015, and like I mentioned, I continue to visit schools to obtain updated information, and I've been blown away by the possibilities. We have a number of members who will be completing their bachelor's in Europe soon, and they've been asking for master's information. I get emails on a regular basis asking when we're going to add master's information, so here we are. Let's start with the topic that usually grabs people's attention first, tuition. What's interesting though is though you're going to save a ton of money with these options, which we'll talk about in a minute, as you learn more and more about the benefits and actually go through with this, it moves down as a secondary benefit compared to others. But it's not surprising that this gets people's attention. After all, there are more than 5,800 English-taught master's degree programs in continental Europe, so that does not include the UK. And they have an average tuition of about $9,000 a year. That average includes higher price programs like MBAs, so it's significant to note that of these 5,800 programs, there are more than 1,800 that cost less than $3,500 a year, and over 700 that are tuition-free, even for international students. This is a major contrast to the US, where according to finaid.org, the average cost of master's degrees for students is between $30,000 and $120,000. The cost varying based on the university and the master's degree program itself. I don't know about you, but when I first heard these numbers, I assumed there must be some sort of catch. Like others, I assumed that the living and travel expenses would make it more comparable in the end, or if not more expensive in Europe. I was wrong. So let's look at some specific examples of how this plays out. I mentioned my son Sam is going to college in Europe, and he's studying International Studies bachelor's program. Students in this program, they choose a region and a related language, and then they study politics, economics, international relations, culture, and language as it pertains to that area. So for the sake of this example, we'll look at related master's degrees in Europe and compare them to the cost of attendance in our state of North Carolina. So UNC Chapel Hill offers a master's degree program in global studies. It's 2 years in duration, and in-state tuition is $10,552 per year. Out-of-state students pay $28,278 per year, and Duke University offers a political science master's degree program for $60,727 per year. $60,727, that's crazy to me. Anyway, the cost of living in Durham and Chapel Hill is similar, estimated by the schools to be about $2,000 a month, so $18,000 per academic year. So the total cost of attendance for in-state is almost $60,000, for out-of-state is almost $100,000, and for private is almost $250,000. 5 years ago, those numbers would have seemed normal to me. Now, though, I know that there are options. So there are a number of European universities that offer one-year master's degree programs. Groningen University in the Netherlands offers a one-year master's in Middle Eastern Studies. The tuition is $14,241 a year, and the cost of living estimates are $14,437. So even budgeting for 2 flights home during the year is still half of what we would pay overall for in-state, a third of what we would pay for out-of-state, and just over a tenth of what we would pay for private universities. But I have to tell you, you might say, okay, well, that's just because it's a one-year program. It's not just the one-year programs that offer savings, especially when you look at countries with a much lower cost of living. Charles University in Prague offers a 2-year international relations program for $6,835 a year. The estimated cost of living is even lower than the tuition at under $5,500 a year, so the entire 2-year degree with travel is in just $24,633. So note that both of these schools are highly reputable, globally ranked universities. Cost does not correlate with quality at all. Just like the student at UNC Chapel Hill, the student paying in-state is not getting a subpar experience compared to the student paying out-of-state tuition. So even factoring in the cost of living and 2 flights per home each year, we would save between $30,000 and $214,000. Either one of those numbers is significant to me. So this is one of my favorite images ever. The number in parentheses shows how many English taught master's degrees are offered in a particular country, and then we have the annual tuition for those programs next to that. Now, our first inclination is to be drawn to the particularly low tuition numbers, or to put those with higher numbers at the bottom of our list. But it's important that we think beyond just basic tuition numbers, since there are other factors that affect cost. For instance, the Netherlands has a fairly high tuition number. By the way, I love that I now think of $16,500 as high tuition, but that's a little bit misleading because most of their programs just take 1 year to complete. There are some schools or countries that don't offer any scholarships and some that have really high or really low cost of living. There's also proof of means to consider, which is something you need to show up front, an amount of money set by the country. You need to show that you have that to live on up front when you get your student residence permit. So let's look at how this plays out a little bit. Norway is one of the countries that offers free tuition at their public universities. I'm not going to lie, it's an amazing country. It's peaceful, but it's also vibrant at the same time. But I'll tell you, I've traveled to a lot of expensive cities, but was still blown away at how much day-to-day things cost here. Things like public transportation or other things you need for day-to-day life, like Band-Aids. Then we have Estonia, where the average tuition is not free, but still incredibly affordable at $4,800 per year. Before starting Beyond the States, I could not have placed Estonia on a map, but after visiting, I think the country is a hidden gem for international students. They're the most technologically advanced country in the world, well, one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. They're actually an e-society, and internet access is a defined human right. They have reasonable tuition, affordable cost of living. It's really easy to explore other parts of the world. They have a great airport. Helsinki is just a short ferry ride away, easy to get to Sweden. And there are incredible opportunities to learn from them through internship opportunities around their technological knowledge. There have been some students who have been a little bit skeptical when I suggested schools in Estonia. Then they looked into it and they were totally psyched, and we have a few students studying there who love it. That said, I know that none of them have said to themselves before that, I'd really like to study in Estonia. So even though there's tuition in Estonia and not in Norway, a student would pay almost $1,500 less per year in Estonia, and there are opportunities for further savings through scholarships, which aren't available at the public universities in Norway. The other thing to note is that proof of means, that money you have to show up front, is just 4,500 euros in Estonia and 10,800 euros in Norway. So affordability is nice and all, but not if it's not going to take you where you want to be in life. So let's talk about educational quality. All of the programs in our database are fully accredited and internationally recognized. It's a valid degree no matter where you take it. We live in a globalized world now, so employers are accustomed to seeing degrees from different countries. That said, if you plan on coming back to the US and are going into a field that requires professional licensure, you might want to look at what the licensing board requires ahead of time. The main place in which you might find some hoops or obstacles pertain to medical professions, and we have a lot more information about those on our blog, so you can figure out if it's worth it to you or not. So let's get back to quality for a minute. Many people rely on rankings when they assess quality. Now, we do have that listed in our database. We note when a school is globally ranked by either Times Higher Education, Shanghai, or US News. I encourage you not to use this as your sole criteria, though. Something that's important to note is that one difference to our US national rankings, global rankings are based 100% on research-related criteria. Therefore, smaller schools, specialized universities, or universities that have a practical as opposed to a research approach will not even be eligible for global rankings, not because the education isn't as good, but because they haven't produced enough published research. One factor that can be more important than whether a school is globally ranked is the employability of their graduates. Here's the great news. Getting your master's in Europe makes you more employable than your friends back in the US. In fact, a recent study by the Institute for International Education found that studying abroad for longer periods of time had a high impact on both job offers and career advancement. So let's talk about a few reasons why. The main admissions requirement for almost all of the master's degree programs in Europe is that your bachelor's degree is from a related field. Students then come into the program with a shared base knowledge, and the program is then able to implement a curriculum that provides more in-depth knowledge. Further, there are many universities, usually those I talked about that have the practical focus, that work with companies when developing their programs. They make sure their curriculum includes the knowledge and skills that the companies are looking for, and this creates a win-win. The companies have a pool of candidates that have the qualities they're looking for, and the students have the skills and knowledge that are in demand. Just as important to employers are soft skills. These are the things that they're finding lacking in U.S. graduates. Just by living in another country, you're going to become more adaptable and flexible. You're going to know how to navigate unfamiliar circumstances. You're going to have an awareness and appreciation for cultural differences, and you're going to be accustomed to working in groups that contain people with different backgrounds and perspectives. These are the traits that will make you successful in the workplace, and employers know that. Now, let's talk about the other incredible benefits related to the international experiences available to students in Europe. International travel in itself can be a very eye-opening and incredible experience. Certainly, there are many opportunities to explore other countries while studying in Europe. It's super compact with great train systems, as well as affordable airlines, which makes going home for the weekend with your friend from Portugal easy. I was just recently visiting schools in Austria and based myself in Vienna and was able to get to 5 other places. Where did I get to? Brno in the Czech Republic, Bratislava in Slovakia, Budapest, there was someplace else, and then a couple of places in Austria too, all very easily by train. Many times also, the student organizations are going to plan affordable and interesting trips. On that same trip, I met with some kids in Budapest who were going on one of those trips that their student union had organized to Montenegro. And the cost for the entire trip, travel, food, lodging, and everything, was just 200 euros. Even more profound than travel, though, is the experience of living in and being immersed in another culture. What's incredible is that there are opportunities to have this experience in more than one country while you're completing your degree. Universities have partner universities or field experiences, which can usually be done abroad. There's also the Erasmus Plus program, which not only has master's degree programs in which you study in more than one country, but also encourages student mobility, even amongst international students and even amongst master's degree students. Another international experience we really shouldn't overlook is the one provided by your peer group. The English taught bachelors exist in order to draw students from all over the world. If you think about it, universities in Latvia, for instance, wouldn't get many international students if all of their programs were in Latvian, because how many people outside of Latvia speak Latvian? So these programs consist of students from all over the globe. You have classroom and social interactions in which perspectives and experiences are shared. This gives you a better understanding of the world, and it often cultivates values associated with global citizenship. I know it's a bit of a buzzword, but man, I think it's important. Of course, many of these qualities you're likely already to have, given that you're interested in this topic. Being with others who have different experiences but common values leads to these incredible lifetime connections. Now, I'll tell you, these options aren't for everyone. They're for students who don't confine themselves to the status quo, who are interested in other cultures, who love exploring the world, who are open-minded and eager to have new and different academic and life experiences. Does this sound like you? If it does resonate with you and you're as excited about these options as I am, I want to talk to you about the steps you can take next. It can be hard to know where to start. Yes, you can do the research yourself, but I'm going to warn you that it took me a full year of doing this pretty much full time to have a good grasp on everything. I've talked to people who have spent months researching, still being confused, and then so glad to have found all this research was done for them. I want to tell you a little bit about the different ways to access our information. We offer a monthly membership, which includes database access, which is searchable. We constantly update it. There's no data scraping. We check the accreditation. And you can search based on general area of study, based on tuition, based on admissions, based on whether they take FAFSA or the GI Bill, country. I mean, there are all sorts of search criteria in which you can use as many or as few as you want. I've also developed a number of webinars. They're actually more like courses than webinars to help guide you through the process. Each month takes you through the next step of narrowing your list of schools. We start by identifying and searching based on your quantifiable criteria, like budget, academic focus, and qualifications. And then in the webinars that follow, we work on narrowing that list down based on various qualities of the school, the qualities of the program, and location. We also have a course after that on the admissions process, the timeline, writing a motivation letter, all of that. In addition, you're able to get your specific questions answered by me on a regular basis. Each month, I make a recording with answers to all the questions that are submitted to me, and we also have live quarterly calls. Both of these allow you to get answers to your questions, as well as questions from other members that you might not have considered yet. The information you can learn from other members is really incredible. So in addition to the interactions on the Q&A calls, we also have a private member Facebook group. It's a really active and supportive group of people who are at different stages of the process, sharing valuable knowledge and, of course, support. So Beyond the States membership contains all of these benefits for $49 a month. There's no minimum commitment. You can cancel at any time very easily with 7 days notice. We also have membership add-ons you can choose. We have a best fit list I offer, and this is where you fill out information on a form I've created about your qualifications, your interests, your preferences, your budget, a whole bunch of information, and then I provide you with a short list of 3 to 5 programs that fit your qualifications, your budget, all of that. It's a great way to jumpstart the process. People get really excited about your list, and I love doing them. I provide consultation hours as well, though you'll probably find you don't need it, especially if you get a best fit list between that and the resources you have with your regular membership. But I do offer that for people who would like a little bit more individualized services. I'm so glad you stuck around, and I hope you're super excited about the possibilities. So I'd like to offer you a limited time discount of $100 off the best fit list. This is good for 72 hours, so you can purchase it now and complete the list much later if you like, and it can be accessed through the button you see here on the page. I hope to work with you soon.